The Haunting of Swain's Fancy by Brenda Seabrook. Chapter 3. Nicole reappeared at supper time. She wouldn't say where she had been. She tossed her head when Peter asked her and acted like she hadn't heard him. Taylor folded napkins carefully at each place. She wouldn't let Nicole think she was in the least bit interested in anything Nicole did. "She has all these secret places I'm not supposed to know about," Peter whispered to Taylor when Nicole went to wash her hands. "She's probably in one of those. Maybe with Cody Jackson." "Who's that?" "He lives over the hill through the woods. He's in your grade, but he hangs out with Nicole all the time. Never with me, except when she gets mad at him. He's mostly cool." They ate supper at the big round table, hamburgers, applesauce, and beans. Nicole hardly said a word. Dad was extra jolly as he talked about their plans for the house. "We want to use the attic for bedrooms for the family and eventually have all 3 bedrooms on the 2nd floor furnished in period style. You can help me choose fabrics for the curtains and wallpaper for the new rooms in the attic," Sylvania said to the 2 girls, as if that would be the most fun in the world. Nicole rolled her eyes, but not so that her mother could see her. Taylor thought it might be fun. She liked to look at all the wallpaper sample books. After supper, Dad played a game of Scrabble with Taylor, and then she played Yahtzee with Peter. Sylvania watched with the news on a TV set hidden in a cupboard. Nicole had disappeared again, maybe to her secret place. As Peter threw the dice, Taylor noticed that the T she had written on Peter's cast had been turned into a fat black C. Nicole had written her name around the wrist part of the cast like a bracelet in chunky black letters. Now only Ayler was left of her name. Taylor's mother called at 8. She took the phone out on the porch to talk in private. She'd planned to tell her mother how awful everything was. "I hope you're having fun," Mom said. "I just got here. It's only 6. We're on Mountain Daylight Time, and I have about 10 minutes to change for a dinner meeting." "Yeah, I'm having fun," Taylor said. Mom was too rushed to hear the real meaning behind those words. Taylor didn't say anything more. There was nothing Mom could do about it now. She clicked off after telling her mom she loved her, and she went back to the game. At 9:30, Dad shooed them to bed. "You can read a while upstairs," he said. Taylor unpacked while Peter and Nicole took turns in the shower. And then it was her turn. The bathroom was decorated with more antique things. Candle lamp sconces on each side of an antique mirror, quilt-patterned wallpaper, baskets filled with soaps, bottles of gel, fancy towels. Taylor was glad they didn't have to use an outhouse. Nicole was already in bed reading. She looked up at her with cat's eyes as Taylor came in wearing her blue nightshirt with the sailboat on the front. "Oh, you sleep in a t-shirt?" It didn't sound like a compliment. Taylor pressed her lips together to stop herself from saying, "And what's wrong with that?" Dad had brought her shirt on a trip to the eastern shore of Maryland last summer. They had made a mistake in the size, and the shirt was enormous. "Yes," she said, "and you sleep in a long white crepe gown with lace around the neck." "What do you mean by that?" Taylor didn't mean anything by it. 2 could play that game, saying nothing and making it sound like something. She ignored Nicole and pulled a book out of her bag. She started to get into the double bed. Nicole sat up, glaring. "What do you think you're doing?" Taylor froze, half in, half out of bed. "Going to bed? Not in my bed. You sleep over there." She pointed to a fold-away bed set up by the front windows. It was made up with flowered sheets, a pair of fluffy pillows, and a white cotton blanket, but they couldn't disguise the fact that it was a fold-away. Taylor was outraged. Why did Nicole get a bed and she had to sleep on a cot? "I don't want to sleep with you anyways," Taylor said as she got into the cot. It creaked as she shifted on the mattress. She opened her book and looked around for a lamp. She didn't have a bedside table or a lamp. The only light came from the one by Nicole's bed. She had to hold her book at an awkward angle to read. After about 10 minutes, Nicole turned off the light without saying a word. Taylor dropped her book with a loud thump, not even marking the place. She was sleepy anyway. Outside the open windows, crickets and other insects screamed their head off. Somewhere a bunch of frogs competed in a yelling contest, and something clicked like castanets. Taylor stared at the black rectangle of a window. She had never slept where she couldn't see a single light outside. It was scary, all the dark, even with fireflies blinking their lights on and off. The moon was rising, or was it falling? A circle of light seemed to descend into the darkness beyond the window. Wasn't the moon supposed to rise? Taylor sat up to get a better look over the still beside her cot. The circle seemed to be coming closer, a round shape with bluish craters in it. It must be the moon, but wasn't the moon supposed to get smaller, not bigger? It came closer. Now Taylor could see it clearly. It wasn't a moon at all, it was a face. A white, ghostly face with black eye holes floating against the sea of dark trees beyond. Taylor let out a scream. The face disappeared. Footsteps sounded on the stairs. The door to the room opened. Dad's anxious face appeared, followed by Silva's and Peter's. "What's going on here?" Nicole turned on the light. "Yeah, what's the matter, Taylor?" She emphasized Taylor. "A face! I saw a face," Taylor babbled. "Where?" Dad's eyes quickly swept the room. "There, in the window." "This window?" Dad pointed toward the front of the house where the driveway ran to the country road. "Yes, that one." "Stay here." He and Sylvania went downstairs. Peter and Taylor watched from the window as Dad turned on the outside lights and walked around with a flashlight. He came back upstairs. "Taylor, there's nothing out there." "I saw it." "What did it look like?" "It was white and ghostly, and it had craters for eyes." "Maybe you had a bad dream. That's understandable in a new, strange place," he said soothingly. "No, Dad, it wasn't a dream. I wasn't asleep." "Maybe it was car lights reflecting off of something. Nature causes some strange ocular projections, mirages, things like that." "Well, maybe." Taylor wasn't convinced. "Nicole, did you see anything?" Dad asked. "No, I was almost asleep." Her eyes didn't look sleepy. She looked like she was enjoying the show. "Okay, everyone, go to bed," Dad said. He sent Peter to bed, turned off the light, and went out. Nicole snickered. Taylor turned her face to the wall, unconvinced. It wasn't funny. She had seen something. But what? In Chapter 4. Something was on her bed, something alive. Taylor opened her eyes. The room was dark. She couldn't see anything. She lay still, afraid to move a muscle. Maybe the face had found its body and climbed into the window. When nothing happened, she began to move. Inch by inch, she turned her head until she faced the window. But there was only blackness in that rectangle, punctuated by 3 late-blooming fireflies. The thing on her bed moved, slowly, stealthily. It crept from the area around her feet to her knees. Could it be a rat? A giant rat that sneaked in from the barn? A giant rat with long yellow teeth and blazing red eyes? A rabid bat? A raccoon? A snake? Something worse? What could be worse than a snake? It stopped next to her knees, then moved up by her stomach. She hoped it wouldn't bite her or touch her. Taylor felt pins and needles all over. If she lay still, maybe it would go away like all nightmare things do. It didn't. The thing crawled closer and closer. It wasn't a snake. It was too big. It could be a big snake. How big did snakes get? Taylor didn't want it to be a snake. Closer. Taylor's eyes strained to see in the dark. Then it touched her bare arms. She flung out her hand and felt hair, not a snake. Then what? Taylor didn't want to scream again, but she had no choice. The scream wasn't as loud as the last one. The thing jumped off the bed with a soft, hard thud. What's the matter? Nicole turned on her bedside light and sat up. No, it's you again. Her eyes were half closed against the light. This time she looked crabby. Something was on my bed, Taylor whispered. What? I don't know. It moved. It sat on my stomach. I think it's under the cot. Nicole stared at her a moment. Maybe you were having another nightmare. No, I was awake. Maybe it was a ghost. No, I think it was an animal. Nicole grinned. Could have been a snake. She didn't look scared. It had fur. Snakes don't have fur. A hairy spider. It was too big for a spider. Spiders don't thud. A rat, maybe? She looked like she hoped it was a rat. That's what I thought. Do you have rats in here? No, we've never had rats. Panther wouldn't allow them. Panther? Come here, Panther. A big black cat with eyes as green as Nicole's stalked out from under the cot. It jumped up beside Nicole, rubbing against her and purring loudly. It's just my cat, she said. I didn't know you had a cat. Why didn't you tell me you had a cat? Why didn't you tell me that he might jump on me? He doesn't come in the house much here. Too much going on outside. I didn't know he would jump on you. He probably came to find out who was here. Are you going to scream any more tonight? I hope not, Taylor said. Twice in one night was enough. She wouldn't scream again, no matter what she saw in this house. At least Dad and Sylvania hadn't heard her this time. Taylor didn't know what time it was, but they had probably gone to bed by now and couldn't hear her through the dark stone wall. Nicole turned out the light again. Taylor closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. How was she going to last through the summer? Something was in the middle of the room. Taylor sensed it, but she didn't want to look. She squinted through her eyelashes. Something was there, a light. She turned her head towards it and opened her eyes. The room was black, but in the center of the floor stood a woman in a long dress. A faint aura of greenish light surrounded her in the darkness as she wrung her hands. And then she was gone. Was it Sylvania? Taylor lay awake for a long time with her eyes tightly closed. She didn't want to see anybody or anything else in this room tonight. Everybody had a theory about the face in the window. It was an alien, Peter said, his mouth full of cereal. Taylor's imagination, Sylvania said. A car-light reflection, Dad said, pouring juice. Nicole didn't say anything, but the look she gave Taylor was unmistakable. You were just trying to get attention, her look said. Taylor decided not to mention the woman she'd seen. A Martian, Peter insisted. Nobody lives on Mars, Dodo, Nicole said. Can't sustain life. Life as we know it. Peter said. There could be aliens from other universes living there in undetectable tunnels, and they hop from planet to planet. Maybe Earth is next, and Taylor saw a scout. Have you been reading Jules Verne again? Dad asked. KP Deputy, kids. Sylvania said, everybody for himself. They rinsed their dishes and put them in the dishwasher. All done? Dad asked, putting down the newspaper. Taylor nodded. Come down to my office, then. They went down to the kitchen stairs to the cellar, where his office was on one side of the hall. Sylvania's on the other. Hers was a pleasant disorder of dried flower wreaths, fabric swatches, house and wallflower books, scissors, baskets, an herb chart, 2 bears sitting in little rocking chairs, a number of projects underway. Dad's was much neater, with lots of books on shelves, stacks of magazines and papers, a bust of Voltaire. You can email your mother every morning, Dad said. He turned the computer on and went back upstairs. leaving Taylor to communicate with her mother while he had coffee with Sylvania before starting work on his economics newsletter. "Hi, Mom," Taylor wrote. "I want to come home when you get back. I don't like it here. Please come get me as soon as you can. Love, Taylor." She clicked send and stared at the screen, waiting for reply. When it didn't come, she emailed again and told her mother to please answer fast. No reply. Mom was probably already busy and out in New Mexico. Taylor deleted her message so Dad wouldn't see them. He came back with a mug of coffee. "That was quick. There wasn't much to say. I just got here." She remained at the computer. "Okay. I have a lot of work to do this morning. Later we can play a game of Scrabble, okay?" Taylor shrugged. "Sure, Dad." Actually, she did mind, but he had to work, even if he was working at home. He tousled her hair, messing it up all the way, after she had combed it so carefully. "Dad," he grinned, but his eyes were already on the computer screen. Taylor went out on the back porch. She had nowhere else to go. She wasn't going to stay in Nicole's room 1 minute more than she had to. Peter was in a hammock under giant trees, reading his way through a stack of Tarzan books. Nicole was off somewhere. Now what, she thought. What am I supposed to do now? And for the rest of the 6 weeks, I'm supposed to stay here if Mom doesn't come rescue me. Read until my eyes fall out? In a bookcase in the upstairs hall, Taylor found a copy of Kon-Tiki, about sailing on a balsa raft from Peru to the Easter Islands, and settled down to read, but her thoughts kept drifting back to her problem. A whole summer with stuck-up Nicole and a busy Dad, Peter with one arm in a cast and his nose in a book. Lunch was everybody for themselves. Peter ate in the hammock, Dad and Sylvania in their offices. Nicole was nowhere around. Taylor made a cheese and tomato sandwich and took it to the summer house to watch minnows. Green dragonflies hovered about the water. The house drowsed. No faces stared from the attic windows today. Taylor decided she had imagined everything the day before. It was the strangeness, and that was all. The house was terribly old. It had been built in 1754. Sylvania had said at supper. But the first cabin it was built around was even older, 1745. Taylor couldn't even imagine things that old. Yesterday the house had seemed spooky, but that face in the window had been like Dad said, reflections of car lights. The rat had turned out to be Panther the cat, who was just curious, and the woman, either Sylvania or a dream, nothing to be afraid of. She could rough it out without a zillion TV channels, and even if Dad was busy, at least he was around. She could see him, and she could talk to him every day. Taylor threw a bread ball, and the minnows raced after it. She glanced back at the attic window. A face peered through the panes. Someone was up there again. Looking out the window, she blinked. The figure was gone. It had been heat waves, or her imagination, or Nicole. On the other side of the house, Taylor found a path through the woods, between trees festooned with thick wisteria vines hung with purple flowers like bunches of grapes. Somewhere ahead she heard people noises. She couldn't understand the words. Somebody laughed. She followed the sound. Her feet were silent on the well-trodden path. The noises came from a tent of vines so thick that she couldn't see through them. Just as she reached the tent, her foot snapped a branch. The noises stopped. Taylor pulled aside a vine, and she found Nicole and a boy sitting on cushions. He must be Cody. He had dark hair, a pointed nose, brown eyes, and wore a fake brown mustache. He looked surprised, but said, "Hi," and then grinned. But Nicole didn't. She scrambled to her feet and advanced towards Taylor with her hands on her hips. Taylor backed up. "What are you doing here? Spying on me?" "Well, go away. This is our place," she said, sticking out her chin. "I wasn't spying on you," Taylor replied. "I didn't even know who was in there. You could have been fairies or elves or gnomes," she added half jokingly and half sarcastically. If she had expected Nicole to find it funny, she was wrong. Nicole scowled fiercely. "I may have to share my room with you, but I don't have to share my secret places or my friends. Now go away." The boys stopped grinning and stared at Taylor. Their faces were a stone wall. Taylor let the vines fall back. She ran down the path, but soon she realized she had taken a wrong turn. The woods were deeply overgrown with other vines that clambered up trees, some with stems so thick she could see why Peter had tried to swing on them. She reached up and grabbed a lush one with ivy-like leaves and swung her weight on it. The vine held, but she didn't try the Tarzan thing. She didn't want to break her arm, too. Taylor couldn't forget the look on Nicole's face. Why did Nicole hate her? She had never done anything to Nicole. It was the other way around. She should be the one who got to do the hating, not Nicole. Nicole got to live with her dad all year round, and Taylor only got to see him in the summer, and even then he was busy working. It wasn't fair. By the time Taylor reached the house, she had worked herself into a good case of hating Nicole back. And she was mad at her dad, too. But then he came out and played Scrabble with her and Peter and the rest of the afternoon, and that made things better. Chapter 5. Taylor decided not to speak to Nicole again. At supper, she picked silently at her tuna casserole. Nicole ignored her, chatting about July days with her mother and Steve. "Thinking about writing a little history of the house," Sylvania said. "There's so much history in this area. I have the 18th century history of this house, but I'm sure there is a lot of it from the Civil War period. I would like to include that, but there's not much time. Maybe you kids can help me with it." Nicole concentrated on her peas. Peter ducked his head and mumbled something. Taylor didn't say anything. She didn't think she was included, but Dad did. "That's a great idea. Taylor likes to write. She can help." Taylor kept quiet. Nicole glowered and stabbed a carrot with her fork. "Oh, that would be wonderful, Taylor," Sylvania said. "I'd really appreciate it." At Dad's look, Taylor said that she would be glad to do it. Nicole shot her a look of green hate from under her lashes and stabbed her peas. At supper, Nicole asked if they could play outside. "Yeah, but stay in the front yard," Sylvia said. "Come on." Nicole headed to the door with Peter behind her. Taylor hesitated. Did Nicole mean her too? "Hey, Taylor, come on," Peter called over his shoulder. So Taylor tagged along to see what was going to happen. Maybe Nicole was sorry for the way she acted earlier. The boy from the secret place was waiting outside. "This is Cody," Nicole said to the air behind Taylor. "Hi." He lifted his hand with a grin and grinned like nothing happened earlier. Without the mustache, he looked a little like Billy Brown from her class at school. "Hi," Taylor said. "Let's play hide and seek," Peter suggested. Taylor waited for Nicole to sneer and say that was a baby's game. "Okay," Nicole said to her surprise. 1 dinosaur, 2. Nicole had to be different even at counting out. "The dinosaur gets you." Taylor was it. She sat on the front steps with her eyes closed and counted to 100. It took forever to find them. They knew all the hiding spaces while she had to guess them. She heard a lot of giggling in the shadows, and once Panther stalked out from the screened porch. Peter was behind a bush near the front steps where she thought nobody could hide. Cody was behind the barn, and by the time she caught everyone but Nicole, it was too late to start another game. They called Nicole in and sat on the edge of the front steps watching fireflies in the trees. "Lightning bugs," Cody called them. "Nicole said you saw a ghost last night," he said to Taylor. "It was probably a card light. Was it round?" Taylor nodded. "Did it have craters that made faces like the moon. How did he know? Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. That wasn't a car light. It was a ghost. His voice dwindled to a whisper. The warm June night suddenly felt colder to Taylor. How do you know? She asked. Everybody knows around here. It was Abel Swain's ghost. He's the man who built the house. He was hit by a train and his head was cut off. The head comes back looking for the rest of him. It can't get inside without his body. When it finds his body, then the ghost will come in. He sounded pleased at this prospect. A chill ran down Taylor's spine. I've never heard that. Peter said. I did, Nicole said. I heard it, but I never saw it. Only certain people can see ghosts, Cody said. What kind of people? Taylor almost squeaked. Their next victims. He said it in a piercing whisper, his eyes wide as he stared in the light from the house window. No, I don't believe in that stuff, Peter said. I'm glad I never saw it, Nicole said quickly. Insects screeched in the dark around them. An owl hooted somewhere in the woods. Taylor felt that anything could happen in the spooky place. Suddenly the phone rang inside and the spell was broken. A minute later, Sylvania said from the door, It's late. Time to roost, chickens. That was your mom, Cody. Can you see your way home? I have my flashlight, Cody said. Anyways, I could follow that path with my eyes closed. Nicole took the first shower again. Taylor felt itchy as she waited, scratching at her arms, her left ankle, all of her fingers. In the shower, she discovered little beads of clear liquid popping out all over her. Was it the plague? The curse of Abel Swain? Poison ivy, Sylvania said when Taylor showed the blisters to her. She gave Taylor some lotion to put on them. It helped a little bit, but it didn't stop most of the itching. Taylor was so engrossed in her scratching that she forgot to think about the head of Abel Swain. Not until she was lying in the cot with the lights off. She wouldn't look out of the window. If she didn't see it, it didn't exist. She kept her eyes tightly shut as she scratched. And she scratched. But she couldn't help wondering if it was there. Scratch. Scratch. Maybe if she ignored it, it would go away. What was she thinking? Of course it wasn't there. Ghosts don't exist. Abel Swain probably died peacefully in bed, head still firmly attached to the rest of him. But what if he didn't? But what if his head was out there? What if his body was somewhere in this house, in this room? What if his head suddenly swung into the window and connected to its body? What if he turned her into a ghost? Taylor opened her eyes. Abel Swain's face, white, ghostly, craterous, loomed just outside the window. It was staring straight at Taylor.